Hello everyone, I am Ilknur and I am master's student at Boğaziçi University and research assistant at Istanbul Aydın University. I'm presenting the role of socioeconomic status and gender in parenting goals in Turkey, findings from a qualitative research. So let me start with a brief introduction to literature. So as we know, parental expectations and values vary cross-culturally since there are different traits needed to fit in different societies. However, we also know that in and between societies, parents' socialization goals also depend on socioeconomic status of parents. So considering the specific demands of different socioeconomic contexts, parenting practices promoting different traits, norms, values should be discussed cautiously. For instance, while parenting practices aim to promote conformity and obedience in low-income families, in higher socioeconomic status parents, they tend to encourage their children to be autonomous and assertive. So in this study, we aim to investigate both short-term and long-term socialization goals of Turkish parents across different socioeconomic status groups and between mothers and fathers. So in the scope of this study, which was funded by the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey, numerous structured interviews were conducted in different cities of Turkey with mothers and fathers separately, and in-depth interviews were analyzed using MaxQDA 2020. So among many other interview questions, we focused on these three questions. For desired child characteristics, we focused on first question. We asked participants, what are the characteristics you want to see in your child at this age, and which behaviors and attitudes of your child would make you proud? And for undesired child characteristics, we focused on second question. What are the characteristics that you don't want to see in your child at this age? Which behaviors and attitudes of your child will embrace or disappoint you? And finally, for the long-term desired child characteristics, we focused on third question. When you imagine your child at the age of 25, what kind of person you would like him or her to be in every way? So for the specific purposes of this study, among 122 parents with children aged between 7 and 15, we selected 48 mothers and fathers from different socioeconomic status groups. Participants who best represent low and upper middle socioeconomic status were chosen based on their supposed profession, employment status, levels of income, and education. Each group was represented by 12 participants, as you can see here. For example, there were 12 people in upper middle socioeconomic status mothers group, and again there were 12 lower status mothers, and it applies for fathers as well. So here we see some sample participant profiles. For example, we have chosen a mother who from upper middle class. She was working as an HR specialist. She got bachelor's degree, and also her spouse got bachelor's degree, and he was working as chemical engineer. We choose another mother as a low socioeconomic status. She didn't have any profession. She was homemaker, and she was high school graduate, and her spouse also worked as a construction worker, and he was a high school graduate. So participants' answers to open-ended questions were coded into different categories. Although we had many categories, here you just see some of them as an example. The categories were created based on the data. Before the analysis, we read all of the interviews, and then characteristics were grouped into three that are individual, family-related, and social. In category of individual, we had individual characteristics, such as being successful, such as being technology addict, and so on. Under the category of family related, we collected the characteristics that are related to family relations, such as being respectful to parents and also being distant to family. And for the category of social, we collected characteristics that is related to social relations, such as being sociable, and when it comes to undesired child characteristics, such as harming others. So let me move on to the results. So here we see a map of participants for desired child characteristics. These maps were designed using percentages of codes within each socioeconomic status group. So bigger symbols here represents the most frequently mentioned characteristics by participant groups. And from the colors, you can tell which groups it belongs. For example, being sociable, being involved in social activities, and being determined was top 3 mentioned characteristics by upper middle SES participants. On the other hand, being respectful to parents, being understanding, taking responsibility in chores, and standing up for their own rights were most frequently mentioned characteristics by low SES groups. And the color purple represents, as you can see, an academically successful one. The purple color represents that the characteristic was mentioned by both of the SES groups, and the big symbol represents that it was frequently mentioned by both of the groups. And also from the proximity of symbols to SES squares, you can compare the frequency of codes between groups. For example, although being academically successful was frequently mentioned by both of the groups, it was more frequently mentioned by low SES participants. So, to summarize results, regardless of the SES, participants described an ideal child as someone who is academically successful. And upper middle SES group mostly focus on autonomy-related individual characteristics, such as being determined and ambitious. On the other hand, low SES group mostly focused on family-related characteristics. They described an ideal child, someone who is respectful, obedient, and shares everything with family. So when it comes to undesired child characteristics, here we actually do not see a lot of difference. Both upper middle and low SES participants indicated that they do not want their children to have addictions, and they do not want their children to be lazy. They also both groups indicated that they do not want their children to be disrespectful to their families. However, upper middle SES participants also frequently indicated that they do not want their children to harm others and fool other people, while low SES group indicated that they do not want their children to steal something from other people. So to summarize results, regardless of socioeconomic status, participants indicated that they do not want their children to have addictions and to be disrespectful to their parents. However, upper middle SES group mostly focused on social behaviors such as harming others or lying others. On the other hand, low SES group evaluated stealing something as the most undesired child behavior. Finally, when we examine participants' answers to a long-term desired child characteristics question, we again see that being academically successful and being self-sufficient was really important for both of the groups. However, participants in the upper middle SES group also indicated that they want their children to be a happy adult, while participants in low SES group indicated that they want their children to have a family and to have a profession. So upper middle SES group mostly focus on individual characteristics such as being happy, intellectual, and self-sufficient, while low SES group mostly focused on characteristics that comply societal norms such as having family and occupation. So in other words, those characteristics mentioned by upper middle SES were usually related to their children's life satisfaction, regardless of the life course. However, participants in low socioeconomic status group wanted their children to complete life stages successfully. So in addition to differences based on socioeconomic status, we also found that mothers and fathers differed in their ideal child perceptions. For example, when we examine top 3 mentioned characteristics of low SES mothers and fathers separately, we see that fathers mentioned family-related behaviors and attributes very frequently. Mothers also talked about these characteristics, desires for these characteristics. However, they didn't prioritize them, so they are not on their list. Again, it's also interesting to mention that while half of the low SES mothers indicated that they want their children to stand up for their own rights, none of the low SES fathers mentioned about this characteristic. So when it comes to comparisons in long-term desired child again, we see fathers focused on family-related features, such as having a family in the future. They also indicated that they want their children to be a happy adult. On the other hand, we see that mothers focused on social relationships. So when it comes to upper middle SCS parents, we again see similar pattern. So similar to low SCS mothers, upper middle SCS mothers also focused on social skills like being sociable and being self-confident. On the other hand, middle SCS fathers focused on individual characteristics such as being autonomous and being ambitious. They also, similar to low SCS fathers, they also wanted their children to be a happy adult. And finally, when we examined long-term desired child characteristics, we again see mothers focused on social skills like having good social relationships or being involved in a romantic relationship. On the other hand, upper middle SCS fathers focused on, again, individual characteristics such as being healthy and intellectual. And they also indicated, again, that they want their children to start a family in their 20s, 25s. So I would like to share with you some quotations from participants that I believe which reflects the ideal child profile of different SCS groups very well. So here we see two participants from upper middle SCS. Let me start with the first father. So he indicated that he is very happy with his daughter's intellectual development. He mentioned attending to philosophy groups and having a yoga certificate, and also reading books, mostly things about individual improvement. On the other hand, upper middle SCS mother defined the success as having a prestige, and also she mentioned hobbies, sports like being in the top in tennis tournament. So here we see answers of low SCS parents. So for example, one father indicated that it's not important to be successful that much. However, I want him to not to have bad habits, and he also focused on, again, family relations, and he said being disconnected from family would devastate me. And similarly, another father from low STS group said that he doesn't hide things from me, and I want him to be respectful towards everyone. So they again focused on respect and sharing everything with family. So to conclude, the results overall have shown that participants from different STS groups differed in characteristics that they want for their children, while undesired child characteristics were usually in common. Again, both mothers and fathers emphasized the importance of academic success and didn't differ in their perceptions of undesired child. However, they differed in other short-term and long-term desired child characteristics. And as I explained, fathers desired more family and self-focused children, while mothers emphasized the importance of social skills. So we recommend future studies should investigate especially low-income fathers' emphasis of family relations. And parents from low STS were more likely to have collectivistic goals, while ones from upper middle STS were more likely to have relational autonomous goals. So again, participants' expectations of academic success didn't differ as a function of their STS or gender. However, participants' perceptions and definitions of success were different across different groups. So in other words, academic success was important for all STS groups. However, the concept of success and ideal child in low STS group was to be self-sufficient. They defined success as an investment in education and having an occupation. They might have considered the academic success as a necessity for an economic independence. On the other hand, for upper middle socioeconomic status group, success was not conceptualized only as graduating from university, but also they wanted their children to invest in their social capital, such as having hobbies, skills, and improving intellectually. It was our study's strength as a qualitative study to be able to go into details of participants' ideal child perceptions beyond statistics. So thank you. That will be the end of my presentation. And here you see my reference list. Thank you so much.